extremely common. And this vowel could appear as E or as O. So it could be, say, this root, or could be, the root would look this way, or this way. It could still be the same root, but with a different vowel. That is the vowel alternation, also called the ablaut. These two were the basic vowels, and you saw them on our vowel system, this E and O. Whereas E and U, as you know, they are really send vowels, so they can easily become these guys. Whereas A and O, they can't become semivowels. So they take the basic vowels, and E and U, they would stand here. So say a root of a root that looks like this, which means to go. There is such a root. There was such a root. This root has this structure because this E is really a glide, so it is a resonant. Do you understand? Yeah?
It would become.
Any question?
Not very clear to that.
This part?
Yeah.
So here I have a diphthong A, and this glide, the glide, for our purposes, would be a resonant. Let's say this root has this structure. So laryngeal one would be the consonant. This would be the, so to say, the nucleus, or the nucleus of the syllable. And then this guy would be then a consonant, because R is of course consonant, the resonant. And yacht, this guy really is, well, this or whatever you want it to be. It's a consonantal or non-syllabic E, yacht. And so this root has this structure. Consonant, vowel, and then another consonant which is a resonant. Whereas, say, for this structure, you could imagine a root like said, to sit. Because, of course, S and D, they're just simple consonant, they're not resonants, they are just simple consonants. Yeah. Is it a bit clearer now?
So.
But still not finished. Not finished. This root then would have, of course, this structure, because the H is a laryngeal, not a resonant. So you have these two basic vowels that they have here as well. The R very rarely occurred there because R was a rare sound to begin with. So these would take as the basic vowels. And then a morpheme or a syllable of this type can also occur, well, it can occur in as E, as O. When it is E, we call this the E grade. It's the E grade of the syllable. E grade means that the vowel is E. It's just a term. If the vowel is O, we call this O grade. And I'll give you examples in a sec. Let me erase these here. It can also be lengthened. So it could be, the root can have this shape, so this particular root. Then we call that the lengthened E grade. Lengthened E grade. It can also be, of course, the lengthened O. So that would be the lengthened O grade. And sometimes the vowel disappears altogether. So then, well, if there is no vowel, then the root will look like this. And in this particular case, we say the zero grade, because there is no, so to say, vowel E or O. So it's a zero grade, no hyphen this time. Zero grade. Except that, since I chose a bit peculiar root with a resonant, resonants, due to their high sonority, they can become vowels if they have to. So in this particular case, our resonant will become syllabic. So, give an example in this case. For this particular case, you can think of the root men. The root men, meant to think. You may have it in the word mind, exactly from this kind of thing. So in the antecedent of the word mind, the Indo-European formation was this. The stress was here. This root was in the 0 grade. The root men was in the 0 grade. But since now we have 3 consonants, then one of these has to become syllabic, and it is this one that becomes syllabic. And that is this with the 0 grade, and this eventually gives the English mood in Old English, and then eventually mind. But there is a better grade, there is a better root that has all these grades, and I'll give it to you now, because that one will erase, hopefully, all the doubts. That root has a stop at the end, so let me rewrite it as this. And the root is said, that I mentioned before, to sit. So in the E grade, you have it in the actual verb to sit. It was like this. The stress was here, and that ultimately gives the English word, Old English word sit on. Sit on. We'll get to know why A becomes E here. That's the later stage, which we'll discuss maybe, if not today, then maybe next week. O grade, for O grade, you would have there's another formation, a bit more complex suffix, and now the stress is on the suffix. O grade here, the same root, said, but with the O grade, that was the causative of this, so to cause someone to sit. And that gives us the Old English verb set, which really is the verb to set.
Set.
To set is to cause something to sit. Even though now we don't say to set the child on the chair anymore, we just say to sit the child on the chair. But historically, this verb is to set, is a causative of sit. Just like to fell a tree is to cause the tree to fall, to cut the tree down. It's the same kind of formation. Or to drench something with water. It used to mean to cause something to drink. And in Old English,
It's similar to sitzen.
setzen, of course, yes, but in German it's still much clearer. It's still setzen, meaning to set. In English, this old pattern has been completely abandoned. And that happened to Middle English, as most things happened to Middle English. It's a great period. The lengthened grade, as you remember, the lengthened grade would give in Germanic at first and then and that gives maybe nothing in Old English, but there is an Icelandic word, sati, which probably was then borrowed into English, because that is the English word seat. Seat. T-I. I'll also give you the slang word if you like, sit here. And here it is, sit here. Then sati. They would say sati. Sit here. Of course, sitzen, setzen, and this, I don't remember this exists in German. O grade, there's a very, very interesting word, which would be, I think this, it must be that. So here we have the lengthened O grade, and since you see D becomes T on the English side all the time, or on the Germanic side, we'll learn this probably in a couple of weeks, how this happened. Now, long vowel is often written with double letter, so what English word can we expect at this time, modern English word? So we begin with S, then there should be a T, and then if we write the length with a double letter, we get
Suit.
And what is this? What is that?
The ash.
Hmm?
Ash.
Well, it's kind of ash, but not quite ash. It's another kind of ash.
the from coal.
Well, probably anything could produce soot,
Okay.
but some things produce more than other things. Do you know this word? Because it's not common in Taiwan, probably, I mean not so much because people don't burn coal at home, it's hot here, it's hot enough here. But of course, when you go too close to the factories, and you see the older houses, they're kind of black.
Yeah.
In Taipei, it's all black. They're black from soot. And soot, these are very, very fine black particles, which are produced when something burns. So of course, ash is what you can see easily, but soot is very, very fine things, and they settle on everything. That's why it is. That's why it has this root, because it sits down on the surfaces. It's a very clever word. Soot. So here we have the length and low grade. And finally, the 0 grade, so that of course would be technically this, which looks maybe a bit unpleasant, how to pronounce this. But remember that all these things, they're not phonetic. These constructions are phonological. These are phonemes, not actual sounds. But there was no s as such, but there was a very interesting derivative with the prefix ni. And this root in the middle. So there was a prefix ni, the root is here in the 0 grade, and the suffix o. The particle, or well, ni also exists as a particle, meaning down. So you sit, it seems down, and that suffix o usually builds nouns of some sort, or maybe even adjectives. So the place where you sit down, of course, could be a chair, but then some creatures sit down into another kind of place. That is, especially if you're a bird. So you sit down, as a bird you sit down into a
Nest.
Of course, yes, that is the use of the word nest. Yes, that is the place where you sit down. And this word is very, very old because it exists in many, many languages, not only in English. Oh, it's a German word, I forgot. Is that nest?
Can't remember.
It could be that, because I think that's a West Germanic word. But if you know Spanish, Rick, you spoke Spanish, no?
Yep.
Do you know the word for the nest in Spanish? It's not the common word, but it is nido in Spanish. Nido. And that is the same word, except that the S is gone. It got lost before Latin, because Latin is nidus from nisdos. Because, of course, this became z by assimilation. So they said not nisdo, but nisdo with the z. So the z got lost in Latin and became nidus, and the nidus gives the nido in Spanish and so on. And it's also nida in Sanskrit. But strangely, in Russian, it is gniezdo with a g. Gniezdo. Yeah, so they have the same root in all possible grades. So all these guys, sod, sed, sod, and s, they are the allomorphs of the same morpheme. And this thing is called, this alternation is called ablaut. And now we'll get back to your question.
Before that, can I ask? Just now you erased those R and RC because they are just consonants. So instead of writing R, you changed that to C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because R is specifically used for resonance. That's
Yes.
why we're writing R. And C can mean any consonant, including resonance. But there is not a resonance, so that's fine. So our root stair that we had, this stair, in this shape it belongs here. It's the E grade. And in the verb stand and stehen in German, it is the same grade. just certain things change. So yeah, but also some other grades might exist. But in this case, it's an E grade, and if you have that, let's say this guy, which I wrote in this way, that would be the 0 grade, because this thing is really laryngeal. So you can also write it this way. But in some cases, in certain cases, it would become syllabic, so it becomes a schwa, and in some it disappears.
Okay.
So it's 0 grade. And yes, this alternation, please remember, we won't really see much of it in this course, but in the future, I might use examples where you see the same root but different vowel. That would be because of this kind of alternation called ablaut.
So in the case of SED, SED SED is the root form, the root morpheme of the following allomorphs.
Yeah. This is the so to say the root morpheme, the idealized morpheme, because we choose to write it with the vowel E because the E is our fundamental vowel. It's simply a very, very common vowel.
Okay.
So that's why it was chosen.
Thank you.
Let's say when you learn the reconstructions, this vowel E is extremely common, always the next most common. So it was simply convenient to write E as the basic vowel. So may I now erase this? You might want to say the words bear, born, ablaut, drink, drank, drunk, so ablaut, swing, swan, write, wrote. It's also ablaut.
Oh, okay.
But we don't call it this anymore today. Now you see these verbs are irregular. But historically, these are very regular alternations. In these English so-called irregular verbs, there is a system, except that when you look at English only synchronically, it's a bit difficult to see. But when you look at Old English, and when you go even further back in time, it becomes clearer and clearer. And once again,
Can you spell it again?
Yeah.
The word ablaut?
Ablaut. Yeah, sure. Or there's another word for it. The French word is apophonie. Well, that of course is an English spelling. The apophonie with IE in French. Apophone is also used sometimes, but most people say ablaut. It's a German word. It's a strange word, but it doesn't mean much. Ab means off, and loud means sound. So, but it really means this vowel alternation within a morpheme. Yes, but words like say tooth, teeth, or goose, geese, this is not ablaut. This is something entirely different, and we'll have to discuss that too.
So right road?
Right road, that is ablaut. Drank, in the verbs, in these irregular verbs, it is ablaut. But in the plurals, two deaths in neither one instance. Anything else?
Just one last question, if I may. Last time, when you first talked about the finding of the tablets in Anatolia, and you said that on that tablet they found the cuneiform of H, and then you say it's like the velar fricative sound.
Well, probably post-velar.
Okay.
We don't.
But then
exactly.
later on we call those sounds. I mean, like now we say they are laryngeals, but not velar fricative.
Oh yeah. The term laryngeal was coined by a Danish guy for no clear reason. Simply, he thought that it might be a nice term. But these sounds were not necessarily laryngeal. Essentially, the H sound is kind of laryngeal because it is glossed, and the glottis here is pretty much in the larynx. And since we write it with H, and so well, laryngeal. But as we said last time, laryngeal 1 might have been glossal. So maybe that one could be called perhaps laryngeal. But H3 would have been pharyngeal or uvular. So they're not laryngeal phonetically, most likely.
Okay.
But we simply call them laryngeals. Actually, one of my teachers used to call them pharyngeals.
Pharyngeal.
I don't know why.
It's easier to pronounce.
Pharyngeal, really? Well,
But they're not velar fricatives. Or you can call them
well, we can call them
post-velar.
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 Or gutturals or whatever, but the tradition is to call them laryngeals. The teacher who called them pharyngeals wasn't an Indo-Europeanist. I don't know where she picked up that term, because I haven't seen anybody else call the term. So we'll call them well, probably you won't see much of them in the future in this course, because this is really early Indo-European. But the thing is that they changed the numbers of vowels greatly when this appeared, because say in early Indo-European, when there were still laryngeals, even though the vowel qualities were still the same, there were many more occurrences of this vowel, the short E, and much fewer of the rest. So there were fewer O's, much fewer R's, fewer these, and fewer those. And then after laryngeals colored the short guy and lengthened sometimes, then many new of these appeared. So the number suddenly increased greatly. The qualities remained the same, but the numbers changed very much. That is the main importance of laryngeals.
Why? Why did it change?
Because laryngeals, they could lengthen this air into some kind of long vowel. So, yeah. In any case, for us, that is the main thing to know, that between the two stages of Indo-European, it was the laryngeals that changed the numbers greatly, reshuffled the numbers greatly.
So here on the handouts, these are Proto-Indo-European, and then these are
This is early Indo-European. This is
late. Oh, okay.
Well, you can speak of early modern English and current modern English. There was a big difference between the two.
So the laryngeals, they change the quantity or the number of vowels in the early proto.
Well, quantity does mean number in a way. So
yeah.
in a way, you said the same thing.
Yeah, I say so. Or numbers.
Well, yes, you can put it this way. Yeah. All right then. So if we can go back to the vowels, then to repeat quickly what we said last time, in the short vowels there were not many changes, except that the O unrounded to R and merged with the historical R. So they merged into one Germanic R, the short vowels. And then in the long system it was the opposite. The long R and the long O, they merged into O. The long R got rounded. And the historical E, the long E, that got lowered. And the short R got raised under certain conditions. Diphthongs they're treated in the books as biphonemic by phonemic sequences. But to make it simpler, you just look at the examples and see that in the case of the diphthongs, the changes are pretty much similar to those that affected the monophthongs, in that in the case of the diphthong O and diphthong OW, they merged into OW. So it's just like that. Of course, these O's and Ow's of any possible origin. So say ow can go back to the real ow, or to some kind of H2. Now, they will both give ow. And O, there are even more possibilities because of the lower range. So ow remains as ow. Here we have the verbal stem o gone to grow. Then it's open, then the O becomes also ow, the stem of red, the color red, gives rauza, and this rauza eventually gives us red in English, through rab, and then bog, it's a root into turn, which we have in the English word bow, like the shooting bow. That remains as L, I becomes R remains as I, or it becomes I. And the diphthong A is the only one that it may have monophthongized relatively early. So this fellow monophthongized. People don't know when, there is no way to know, but many people think that it must have been a very early monophthongization, but there is no clear reason why it should have been so. And there are some inscriptions from the Germanic area which still have this kind of spelling. Problem is that they are not written in Germanic languages, but they have Germanic names. So it's still a bit uncertain, but I tend to think that this diphthong monophthongized not too early, maybe quite late. In any case, it happened. And what happened here is that, as you know, these two vowels are quite close to each other on the table. This is very high, this is, well, kind of high-ish. And what happens is that, well, no, I shouldn't write it this way. The glide simply attracted the nucleus toward itself and raised it. So at first it was something like this, and of course this really is this. So the monophthongization was really some kind of assimilation of the nucleus to the glide, and such things happened more times later with the other diphthongs as well. Assimilation is a very big thing in the Germanic languages, although of course it's common everywhere. Otherwise there is nothing else, not so many diphthongs. And then in late Proto-Germanic, certain vowels became nasalized and then lengthened after the nasalization disappeared. This happened in these clusters, which involve a nasal and a complex consonant cluster within the sound. I use the Greek letter Chi there, but it doesn't mean that the sound was uvular. The sound was most likely just a simple velar. But the tradition is to write this Greek letter, so don't be confused. I found it convenient, but the sound was not, it was really, so but don't worry. So what you have there is you start out with a form like this. Oh, there is something missing. Aspiration, no? Yeah, there's a short aspiration here. And that you get the erasing, so you get something like Grichka, and then this N first nasalizes E, so you get something like, well, this, but then you also get the lengthening because you lose a consonant, so not to lose the mora, to say, there's lengthening, but eventually the nasalization disappears as well, so the outcome is really just this in the end. Nasalization wasn't very stable, it disappeared quite early. The same happened with this verb, carry. That's the verb actually to bring. And now you understand finally why bring has a strange past tense brought. So bring has an N, and then brought doesn't. But it used to have one a long time ago. It was brachta, and brachta lost the N in the same way and became brochte. So it looks entirely irregular now, but 2000 and 370 years earlier, it was entirely fine. But this particular word has another problem, because in reality, these two belong to. The real past should be not brang, like sing, sang, sung, so it should be bring, brang, brung. And in Old English, there was brang. And people still say it sometimes in dialects now. Whereas this one belongs to the so to say regular verb, which was not bringan in Old English. English bringan to bring. There's another verb called brenja. Brenja, the j this time. It was the structure was the same as that of the verb to fell, to set, and so on. It was a causative, but the thing that the meaning of this was the same as of that in Old English. They merged completely, and then they got mixed up. That you have the present tense from this verb, but this past tense actually belongs to this one. But of course now we don't care because we didn't even know that this was so. But these two things merged, and then the past tenses merged as well. So bring brought, not bring brang. Think and thought is the same thing. It should be think, thank, thank. And some people still say it this way. But there was both thinchen and thanchen in Old English. And thought belongs to the verb thanchen. Thinchen meant to see, and thanchen meant to think. So, have you seen this expression ever in the text? Methinks. Methinks. Have you seen this ever? Well, you read to modern texts. Read something older, read Shakespeare. Methinks, can you guess what it means?
I think.
Yeah. It seems to me.
Oh,
it seems to me. Or I think. Simply we're going to say the more say I think it seems to me. But such verbs were used impersonally. Yeah. And so really that's where this verb still had the original meaning to see. So the two merged in the same way. But please don't write this in your thesis. Methinks. Work out. And if we turn the page to page 2, we see the Germanic vowel system. It more or less looked like this. So nothing too fancy anymore. Very few diphthongs this time, only I, OW, and L. A couple of nasalized vowels, and all of them were long. Then the long vowel, short vowels. There is a short vowel O missing because it didn't exist. And there is no long R because that didn't exist for some time either. but appeared later. The nasal vowels lost their nasality quite soon, except that in some parts of this Proto-Germanic area, from which later Frisian and English developed, this nasal R, this fellow, first became rounded. So it first became something like this. Well, and then because in the actual languages, in Old English and Frisian, instead of this you have this guy. So it must have been rounded and then denasalized. But this is okay, this rounding is fine because, well, if you speak French, it's exactly the same thing. Because in French, whenever you see such sequences, no matter what vowel, they'll pronounce as with a rounded vowel. So it is the same thing. And we can take a break now. Yeah, break time.
So here, this is PIE, and this is
It's Proto-Germanic.
this one.
All these are Proto-Germanic. Just earlier, later, even later. And that vowel would be long, right? Yes, students, be careful with one thing, and this is actually quite important, especially in Taiwan, where people tend to write the letter I somehow like this. There's a big difference between this and this. Short vowel, long vowel. So please don't get confused when you read your notes later, because if you write everything like this, you'll be in trouble, big trouble.
So last week you also mentioned the syllabic resonance. That also belongs to PIE.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that it's PIE to Proto-Germanic.
Well, there also were some syllabic resonance at some stage of Proto-Germanic, but the origin was a bit different, and we'll probably only briefly encounter them, so don't worry. The ones here, these are Indo-European.
Indo-European.
John, I was telling everyone that there is one important thing here for the students to remember, that these two things are very different in historical linguistics. But in Taiwan, people often write I somehow like this. So please make this distinction between the dot and the length mark for your safety. Because some say, if you take a written exam and if you write this, I'll have to assume this. And these two are very, very different things.
So, sorry, they're different because,
This one is short, this one is long.
for example, like,
Imagine saying this word and this word. Bits and beats, right?
oh,
Or B or whatever. That one is really long. So if you write it this way, I'll probably have to guess that you have to judge that you mean this, and then that will not be very good. So I might maybe take the oral exam instead.
Yes. And this is very important for me because that's how I usually write I, with the as a line.
It seems most students do this way here.
Yeah.
How about you?
Dot.
Did you write a dot?
Yeah.
Can you check your notes and see? Because see, my students on the another level,
a long
all
dot.
of them write like that.
A long dot. This one?
Yes, you see it's everywhere. So it's a bit like a stress sign in your case. I don't know. why it is that in Taiwan everybody writes this thing? Is it a bit easier, or you were taught to write like this?
Maybe we follow how our teachers do this. So you really make it a circle.
Well, it's a dot. It's just this.
Yeah.
One person whom I know, actually, one of my teachers, used to write I with an actual circle.
Yeah.
That was her style. But it's really just a dot. And this dot was written for distinction from the other letters, because in the manuscript, if you write something like, oh yeah, if you want to write this word, it's an Icelandic word, mínir, which means mine, in the manuscript it would look somehow like this. In a manuscript, it might be a video manuscript, so it's not very clear. And then they would write some kind of things there, and then it's much clearer suddenly. At first they wrote actually not dots, but such signs. But then it became a dot later. In Old English, there were no dots either in manuscripts. No, the dot came actually